Yeah, Upstreet Baby. Funny you mentioned that because that came from the early writing sessions when I started writing with them before I joined the band. And that was kind of like I think that was a little bit of a TSN turning point for those guys and myself. When we wrote that, I remember we quickly made a recording in the basement. John Angus has some setup he can record stuff, and I played his son's, who was very young at the time. This is a while ago. His little kid drum kit. Like I was bent over like this playing a little drum kit, and the actual drum sound from that little crappy little kid kit kind of ended up staying on that recording. But that was like a turning point for everyone, where I thought everyone was kind of like, oh, this song's cool, and we came up with this together, and he's drumming it, and we're here, and maybe this should become a thing, and ended up being on the record. And that was one for sure. That was kind of stands out. But no, the whole, I mean, I loved the recording process for that album. And then we did a big Canadian tour for that album and played the hell out of those songs. And some of those ones that you mentioned, you have good picks
Well,
for
thank you. Thank you. I should be like a radio a guy, choosing the hit singles or the
yeah, because
A&R or something.
yeah, those are the ones you mentioned. Those are the ones that we played a lot and still kind of play now.
So my notes for Upsweet Baby, I have great chorus, such a fun and catchy, uplifting chorus. I think it might be one of the best choruses on the whole album. Do you agree, sir?
Yeah, I loved that song, and I remember being in the basement that day when we wrote that, and we were all kind of like, I mean, when you're writing stuff with people, I think everyone in the room has that feeling of like, up sweet baby, this is really good. Oh my God, this is making me feel happy. Like, when something's kind of cool and when something's, really badass. And I think we all had that feeling of, this is good, man. We're on the path to something happening here.
The chorus had such a good payoff. Like when it hits, you're like, ooh, that's it right there.
Yeah. And Colin, I mean, he always delivers vocally, but when he's singing something kind of like had the feel of that song, he just kind of knocked it out of the park. So yeah.
So listening to the album Civilianaires as a whole, the drums are a big part of the sound. Like they didn't relegate you to the back, barely, keeping time. It's your drums are very active throughout. And did it mean a lot to you that they had enough faith in you that it feels to me that they just said, do what you do, and went with it, instead of saying just, this is your first album with us, like maybe hold yourself back a little bit and don't take over. It felt like there was a confidence in you that they had to let you do what you were doing. And the drums are, to me, one of the best parts of that album is the drums delivering something more upfront than a lot of drummers.
Well, I won't take credit for credit that is not owed to me. The producer, before I joined the band, the producer, Derek Hoffman, he actually programmed.
Oh, I know Derek. He was on Canadian Idol the year I was on Canadian Idol. I don't know if he wants people to know that, but there you go.
He programmed a lot of those parts. So when I was like going into the studio to learn to record, it was like, here's the songs with the written program drum parts, be able to play them perfectly. So it was more of like, learn this stuff and then get in there and play the hell out of it. So I can't take credit for all the drum parts. But still, I mean, still a difficult task, right? For any drummers that play acoustic drums, to learn electronic drum parts and make them sound cool and live. It's a tough challenge to kind of bring that to life. So the sound that you're hearing is like real acoustic drums mixed in with electronic drum parts to make them sound really punchy. Yeah, the drums, as they say, they slap on that album for sure.
I love that you mentioned that, because it tells me I'm not crazy, because I have a note that says there's an electronic sound to the drums. Did you play drums and then the sound was manipulated afterwards, or are you using loops and programming? So
there you go, man. You got a good ear.